Hello, gang. Welcome to Sketching with Izzy. Hopefully, y'all can hear me all right. Checking my audio output. Hi, Irina. Welcome. Christina, great. Awesome. Good to see you all. I've got Armageddon. The apocalypse is happening outside. It's super yellow. It looks like a movie. The fires are going wild in Oregon right now. Go Trek, welcome. Gotta check my own audio. I gotta get my musics. So today we are going to be doing the crit stream for my patrons over on Patreon. We do this once a month. They upload finished illustrations, and we sort of break down and give quick crits on how they can improve their paintings and things like that. So you can do that via Patreon if you're interested in getting your art checked out and shared here. And then also, I think I have a request set up, so you can purchase one, see what it's like. There's a critique request now on the stream where you can spend Zed bolts and get your own crit, and we'll set it up for the upcoming crit day. So yes, I will start with the UK peeps. Let's see. Dan Rob, are you UK? Are you on? I don't know if he is. Well, we'll go ahead and start with Christina's. Since you are UK. Very nice piece. So yeah, as I was saying before I get into it, I'm going to be doing the crits first, and then I'm going to do a little poll. I did some really quick, like 4-second, 5-second thumbnails of possible character creature things. So if you want to stick around through the crit or join us again after, you can chime in, and I'll do the poll for which critter we're going to paint today. All right, so Christina, very nice. I'm digging it. I think I did see it. Maybe you posted it on the Discord at some point to get some help from the gang, but it feels familiar to me. Of course, no. Well, I don't know because I'll be starting it on the stream. So no, you wouldn't be able to vote after the stream. I'm sorry. What I could do, let's see. If you'll bear with me for just 1 minute, what I could do is set up the poll now. I'm going to show you the sketches. So here we go. Here's the sketches. Like I said, they're about 4 seconds a piece. I'm going to create a poll. Question. Which critter we painting today? Critter 1, Critter 2, Critter 3, Critter 4. And I'm going to allow additional votes for purchases. Let's do... I wonder if I can do a longer poll. It says 10 minutes tops, but... Well, maybe I'll rerun it again. Okay, so I'm starting the poll. Let's see if that pops up for you guys. Okay. So I'm going to make a little copy of this and I'll put it on... you see it? Great. Okay, so I'm going to save this. That was relatively painless. Not too bad. Control Shift copy, and then jump back to our painting. I'm going to paste it just over a little section so people can see it. Okay, there you go. So If you've just joined, feel free to chime in on the poll. And that will be the creature that I finish up today's session with. I don't know if I'll finish the painting, but we'll get there. I will continue on it if I'm enjoying it. So here we are, Christina's book cover. Very nice. I'm going to read through her comments so we can discuss specifically what she's interested in. Another book cover, still trying to push out of the comfort zone with dynamic shots. That's good. Main struggle here was getting a sense of depth through overlapping shapes and foreshortening. That's always a struggle. Legs, torso, the girl in front of the automaton, etc. While simultaneously trying to fit as much as you could into the front cover. Oh my god, do I know this game. You've also probably noticed my attempt at sort of spiral shape composition with the leaves, legs, etc. But I feel this could have been done better. Wasn't sure how to do it without breaking her legs. Love to hear how I'd improve the illustration. Okay, so our focus will be composition and storytelling. And then I'm going to also, of course, give you my regular tidbits in regards to photo bashing and things like that. I know I've said it many times, but it bears because it's important. You have lots of tiny, tiny little details back here, and then brushstroke details here. And those two things are going to fight against each other always. They always will. So in lieu of having to paint basically photoreal up front, I highly recommend blurring the things in the background with either a Gaussian blur or a paint daubs filter or something like that in Photoshop to kind of just make it less detailed, because those tiny, tiny little details tell me that everything up front should be at least that detailed. Does that make sense? So I know it's annoying. I know I keep saying it, but it's totally true. You want to make sure that you filter your details so that your focal points will have the most terrific detail, the most terrific color. All of the big money shot has to happen right there in your focal point. So the easiest way to do this is to lessen the detail in the background and make sure that you increase the detail in the foreground and make it really fun and hot up front. Welcome, Dan Rob. Even if it's all just one value in the background, yes, because you've controlled your values really well, it does fall back, but still there's all of this tiny, tiny little detail, those little tiny bits of leaves in the trees. And then we have up here of equal size, tiny little bits that are brush strokes. Do you see what I'm saying? So, I mean, I understand the interest in that detail. If you want to keep it, absolutely cool. Render out and take the time to really, really refine your foreground forms and shapes. The materials have to be flawless in order to sell that as something at the distance. Otherwise, your foreground will always feel unfinished. Does that make sense? A great example for this is look at the paintings that the Marvel guys do. In particular, Ryan Meinerding. Fucking incredible painter. I've been a huge fan of his. I went to college with that guy, and he was crushing our asses back then in school too. So look at his paintings and see how he handles Ryan Meinerding. I can't remember exactly how to spell it, but he is the VizDev warlord at Marvel. So if you just look at Marvel, the Marvel credits, especially the early films, he's the top guy for everything. The reason I mention him is because those guys, thank you, that is the name, because they kind of set a standard for how to do detailed clothing and materials up close. And if you're doing detail to that degree in the background, you're going to need to meet that level of detail in the foreground for the cloth. Every element's going to have to come together at a supremely rich level of detail in order to sell the distance. It's totally doable. I believe you can do it. It's just going to take a lot more time. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so I know. I always say it. We'll let it go. Also, similar things. Watch your lighting. There's the plasticiness that we've talked about in the hands. You don't have it with the photo in the face, so that's good. So those are just the throwaways, you know, that I'm always going to say in regard to managing your detail. I still think it's awesome. It's phenomenal. Great colors, great lighting. It's very fun. So if we're going for the spiral, I'm trying to figure out roughly what your spiral shape you're going for here is. Is it this way? Or this way? I'm not sure. First or the second? Oh, it's not a big deal with the hands, really. I think you could do it pretty easily, especially considering, you know, your rough strokes back here are all great. It's just about not counting on the highlights that the 3D gives you. I know there's a temptation because the detail is done, but the problem is that the detail that those 3D models have is wrong. The anatomy isn't correct, and it lends it a kind of rubbery plastic feeling. Second dish. Okay, so you wanted it more of a going out this way kind of thing. Okay. All right. I think there isn't quite a clear read. I mean, I read it, but I think it requires me focusing on it and thinking about it. But if I were walking by this on a bookshelf, I don't think I'd have a clear read right away what the robot, the automaton, is doing. In terms of stuffing her inside of his little belly cavity here, I would say you might benefit from either having the figure a little bit smaller, and this might help with your getting everything in the cover, and making this moment back here bigger and more prominent, because that's the story. That's what's happening. Her reaction is important, but you need to communicate the action of what's happening, and you have it kind of tucked away. Admittedly, let's throw up our ruler real quick. What's dead center here? Right about here. So this is the center of the book. Let's pick a proper color for this. All right. So this is, in reality, this here is your composition. It's not the entirety of the thing, because that's not what we see. So you almost need to think about, when you're doing book covers, as two compositions in one. The big read composition, and then the secondary composition that's the cover. That's why when you look at a lot of book cover art that's out there, it'll look like it's really right side heavy, and almost everything's contained within that half. So you have even more in the middle, crossing that center line, than most art that I've seen for book art. So if it were possible, I mean, also I imagine the lettering and things like that are going to be pretty cramped with this composition. I would just make the whole thing a bit smaller and make it more about this. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's see what it looks like. I mean, this is not going to be pretty. We're going to be doing a really, really rough thing here. But we are talking composition, so it's got to be done. Turn back on our poll. How's our poll doing, by the way? Let's take a look. Oh, critter number 1 is winning by a landslide. All right. Transform this. What if... The other thing to remember, and it's a weirdly unconscious thing, but you got to think about it when you're doing book covers like this, is that line isn't just a line, it's a fold. So you would be seeing their leg being bent back behind, and that can feel very strange, especially if you can see if the spine is printed too, then you're just going to have like a chunk of leg on it. So these are things you always got to think about when you're doing your illustration, is the entirety of the workaround, the entirety of the bleed. If there's crossover, there should be crossover for a reason rather than arbitrarily. Does that make sense? Okay. Let's see. Oh, goodness. Gotta mute my phone. All right. Big brush. We're just going to do quick, dirty I think also that secondary cover that you have is an opportunity to do more storytelling. So you could have something happening over here that's small or indicative of maybe whatever she's reaching for, or if there's somebody reacting or something like that, or even just like if the automaton has snatched her, maybe something's flying out of her hand, and it's on this side. That could be story relevant. There's all sorts of ways that you can play this. And then, on this side, when you're looking at the back cover, you'll have your brief text, description, so-and-so survived the robot wars, blah, 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 all that stuff. And, there'll be this little thing that leads into it. So you want to think about your composition in the total sum of the finished piece. You absolutely must be thinking about title, blah, 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 robot wars. The snatching of the robot rapists, super scary, right? So, and then maybe this is like a little bit of overlap. That kind of compression is going to be necessary on your end in the beginning, because it's easier to do it where you're at than it is to do it at the end. Sometimes some publishers they'll get art that's a little more cramped, and then they'll hire a second artist, or they'll have to send it back, and you're going to have to make bleed space for text. So be mindful. It's one way that you can handle this is when we're talking about a client situation is ask about it ahead of time. Like, okay, what's your title? How do you want the title to sit? Do you want overlap of the figures over the title? Like it's a comic booky thing, and sometimes it fits and sometimes it doesn't. So these are all questions you should be asking right at the get-go. Okay. In terms of the robot, let's see. I'm transforming her down just a touch, not much. And the reason for that is so that we can make it, if you could bring the hand out even more and make it really clear. You could even light up into see what this does is this creates an arrow shape that's pointing into the chasm of its glowing lava belly. And we can sell that this, make the hatch clearly open and separate from the figure. I think there's also some really strange overlap with his arm here. So, and I can tell you probably struggled with that, like how much do you show? And you can't just have this disembodied hand, right? Totally get that. So, design-wise, I would probably try to do something, and then of course you need that light. I would try to do something that hints at that shape. Give it a little bit of moonlight. Have little perspective lines and things like that hint at the depth. Very ugly, I know, but this is just for communications purposes. With the spiral thing, could you do? If you want her to feel really off balance, you can really commit to that and just do like a full rotation. Actually, this kind of helps a little bit. Let's grab both, bring them down. Oops. So if we change her angle a little bit, she breaks outside of his silhouette. You don't have to worry too much about the arm. Oops. I would give it that full rim light that you have. I would put that on the arm itself so that it's really clear. You need the mass of the hand there. It's not visible. You've put it all behind her. I know why you did it. You wanted to show off the contours of her bodice and stuff. But instead of doing the bodice against an empty field, you can do accentuate the bodice with a rim light instead, because you have a rim light on his hand, right? So I'm thinking in terms of the spiral effect, and I understand wanting to do it because it almost feels like it's going like, you know what I mean? I like that. I like the idea of that. So how I would think about doing that is probably rotating her arm. I don't know. I really like the reach you did. This whole area here communicates really well her panic and fear. So really what it's about is those legs. So what I would do, let's see. You've got the hips. Maybe I would turn the thigh in this direction and allow let the arm be that straight that's showing us the backward movement, and rotate the legs instead and show the torsion of the body in that. So you could even have this leg kind of coming down more straight, and well, maybe not that much. So the knee is here perhaps, and then we see rotation. And if what you're implying, it's an animation concept called secondary animation. What you're implying is a movement that's happening, and you're showing the movement currently and the movement that just previously happened. So by twisting the legs and rotating them up, you're going to give the effect of her it'll like add to the snatch feel. Because your body is not all going to react to the same thing at the same time. Let's say you get punched in the chest, right? So your chest and your torso is going to go back first. Your legs will still be planted in the same spot. And you want to show that difference in timing, because when you're dealing with a painting, you only have one moment that you're able to explain everything that's happening. So you can take advantage of concepts like animation does and put them simultaneously together in the same pose in order to imply an action. So you see the current and the moment before all in one. Does that make sense? And it'll give you that dynamic turn. This may not be the solution. It's certainly not very pretty looking, the way I've torqued the legs, but it's a solution for that. I would maybe even... You could also, if you wanted to, wow. All this smoke in the air, my throat's it's drying out so bad. The other thing that you can do, and this is going to run counter to some of the things that I've taught you guys before in the class, is when you have limbs or something that are not behaving according to a specific shape that you want, you can hide them inside the silhouette of the figure. So you're doing the opposite of some of the stuff that I've taught you before. So you could kick this leg out straight, and then, put the foot out like this, or put it out here in front of her body slightly. I would still try to break it out just a little bit. And then it's not so much about how this leg is changing the direction of your pose. Does that make sense? I know these scribbles are getting worse and worse as we go. It's another way that we could do this. Robot torso or hips, pelvis shape, legs. You could turn this leg out forward like that. Looks like Critter 1 won, so we will be painting Critter 1 from the poll. So by adding the robot's body to that shape, we can also start formulating, like maybe her torso's turned. And then you can have the legs going, both legs going up this way. Kick this foot up. You see what I'm getting at here? Kind of compressing and joining certain parts of the silhouettes of the two figures together in order to create that shape. I wouldn't think... Yes, these leaves are giving you a little bit of motion, but they're not really adding anything to the composition in regards to that spiral you're after. You would really need to... When you're trying to use individual elements to draw the eye around, you want to make sure that there's kind of a clear connect the dots feel to the thing, so that it's, you know, let's say there's a leaf here. I would put like a couple more down here, like this. Like she's kicking up the leaves, right? And then maybe even sweep them back in space towards her. That's going to give you that spiral effect. You need to be able to connect the dots. You can't just put them in there and kind of have them so separate, especially considering that this is a front and back of a book, and then expect it to read. It's not going to happen. Does it make sense? Do you have any other specific questions about this in terms of composition or storytelling? Or anything else? Let's turn all this garbage off, because it is a nice painting. Is the lighting okay? There's some stuff that's a little bit wonky. You've got, again, it's the result of the light from the model. So I would, if I were you, lighting wise, I would blow out all of this into a bloom behind her, and I would silhouette her against that bloom. Yeah, these aren't even dark enough. Still not. I mean, your instinct with the rim light here is great. I would keep that. But you need to offset it with something darker rather than showing the light of the sky. Also, it's just not an important... You've given it too much, because it's still rendered and the lighting brings it forward. You've given it too much import. So there's also like a little bit of a potential tangency going on and things like that. It's just the lighting here doesn't match what's happening back here. If you have light blasting through this shirt, that light should be very bright. And everything in that area that's being lit by it needs to behave accordingly. And unfortunately, this right here is showing light from the sky, which may not even be visible because there's an arm in the way. You know what I'm saying? Same thing is happening up here. You've got this red. It's okay. I mean, it happens, and then these are nitpicks that, you know, we artists see that, you know, most people won't notice. So, I mean, if you've already shipped this, I don't think it's a huge deal. This is nitpicking. So the lights that are coming, that are lighting up this hand, there's a bit of directionality problems here. Like the palm should probably not be getting the light that it's getting. And then this shirt's gonna block some of that. The intensity in general just feels a little bit too strong. I think this is a situation where I would go instead with a ton of, let's pick a good line brush here. I would instead draw the attention here and really make the edge separation on that spot, this spot, rather than on the hand. And I would let the hand reach in, reach towards the sky, having the sky colors be the dominant thing. So you could certainly hint at the reds, but having the rim light be brighter here than it is on her head doesn't make sense, right? So it's a decay thing. The objects that are closer to the light, right? That's our light source, need to be much more brightly lit. So something that's really close is going to be almost the same. And I mean, we're exaggerating, of course, but then it's going to be a little bit less. Let me use a different brush for this. It's going to diminish, right? As it gets further away, it needs to diminish more and more. It can't get brighter than something else. So this should be way brighter than this. If the two things are in line behind that light source. You see what I'm saying? This, nah, I wouldn't like that at all. I would leave that completely dark. Or if you're going with sort of the logic of your scene, I would instead focus on the foreground. This right here, so when I'm talking about kind of the plasticiness, I'm going to go ahead and just give you a quick hand demo too. When I'm talking about the plasticiness of these models, it's because there's a stiffness and there's a misbehavior in the rigging of how they're set up. And the hand is a really complicated structure, so I understand why it happens. But having a pinky just go down and not have it affect, like, see how when I tuck my pinky down, other fingers start following, and see how this mass of meat starts squishing, and it actually changes the silhouette and the shape of the thing. This mass of meat right here in the palm is never represented in 3D like it should. Remember how we talked about how, so with the hand you have your knuckles, right? This is the base of a knuckle, and then the front side, it doesn't look like it's in the same spot, and it's this pad of meat. This is what allows us to grip. But if you look at the webbing, that webbing is like 3/4 of an inch, and sometimes bigger on other people. Do you see it? And you don't seem to notice it in the front, but you do notice it in the back, the difference between the webbing. You see? So in this case, because it's a really hard thing to rig, in fact, I've only ever seen it's got to be bespoke rigging, done by technical artists, at Pixar or some shit like that. So none of these things are rooting correctly. And it feels very unnatural. And then, of course, it can't be lit correctly because nothing is structured right. So let's say this is that base part of the knuckle, right? You of course, would have your webbing. But in this case, the webbing, if this finger is coming down, and this is the next knuckle, and this is the next knuckle, right? So this finger... Or let's leave the trajectory of this one as it is. Right? So now the webbing needs to be stretched down. You see? Like that. See how the webbing stretches down and underneath and swoops with that? So the structures all need to hinge on each other. And then if that changes that, then that absolutely changes this. So this pinky should actually be like that. And all of this meat needs to be folded. It all needs to be folded. Instead, it's kind of a big, sort of lumpy piece of soap. So it's from the ground up. It's built incorrectly, and that was all built. That was all built on the existing pieces. How I would actually draw this. Let's flip it again. This is how I would. If I were trying to construct this from scratch. I would have my wedge piece, right? This part of the wedge always comes out a little bit more to the right. You see? Even if I hold my hand straight, and this feels kind of unnatural to do this, but even if I go like that, notice that the meat of the ball of the thumb right there, that sticks out a ton. Everybody's hands are different. Some have very slender hands. I have really like meaty pinky hoofs. I'm ham-fisted, as they say. So then you have your insertions right here, and right here. But because you're rotating it down, all of these bones that construct the back of the hand are rotating too. You remember this from the hand lectures? So then that would mean that for this to be down like this, in this direction, so I'm just doing just the gesture of it. I'm not trying to draw the anatomy right now. The meat of the palm. Yeah, I'd say dig it out, just give it a watch, and the reason I want to encourage you to do that and take the time with this is it will help you to arrange. This is something that will help with the render itself. When you're doing the arranging of the fingers in the modeling phase, you will start arranging them more naturally so that they feel correct. Even though you're working with a flawed rig, you'll be able to fake it better, and it'll be easier to paint and cover up when you get to the painting stage. Does that make sense? It's been lots of nitpicking, but I really like the painting. It's really cool. Awesome. Quick side thing, that was the lighting. I mean, you can extrapolate from there. There's other places where the lighting kind of needs to match up. You got kind of a little, there's also something soapy happening with the foot here. So I would take a look and see if you can get a shape that feels a little bit less, like so that the shoe feels a little bit more organic and natural. So if she's pointing her toe a little bit. There's a lot, yeah, feet are tough. But there's one thing that gets forgotten about a lot in regards to the ability to sell a gesture with the foot. And that is, taking this being a foot, is the rotation this way and that way. Being able to supinate and pronate your foot, which is a really weird thing that we can do. But by arching it in, you're adding even more animation effect to the feeling that she's just been snatched up, because your feet just kind of like it's like picking up a dog or a cat. Their feet just kind of tuck. We do that too. So if you turned the foot in a little bit so that it felt like it was supinating slightly, that would add to that feeling of just being yanked off the ground. I think your instinct with the point of the toe was good. But yeah, great job. All right. Any other questions on this one? All right. Thank you so much. It was a really good entry. All right, now we're on to Dan Robb. Irina did a really, really great painting. Also, I think it's an album cover or something like that, but the client asked for that to remain private for now. So we will not be covering that on this crit. We're jumping to Dan Robb. Hardest part of this piece was the perspective. Used many different photos, 3D renders to try and get it to feel correct. Feel pretty good about it, but love to hear what I can find. Well, that's not what I'm doing. I'm not trying to find problems, guys. No, this is really cool. I like the lighting a lot. Some good, the perspective is very good. I think what we would talk about with this is probably more composition, because the lighting is quite solid. Night, Christina. Thanks for hanging out. Yeah, this is a really nice dynamic painting. It's very cool. Let's flip it and take a look. Oops. Yeah, it's pretty clear scale. There's good atmosphere. The lighting's really nice. The only thing that's kind of jumping out to me are some slightly soapy anatomical aspects. And the light. Did you cross the lightsaber with the Balrog's sword, flame sword, on purpose? Like, is that sort of part of the narrative? I would say, I mean, it's a cool effect, but it is diminishing both by virtue of the fact that they're both intense light sources, and as a result, they're kind of getting lost in each other a little bit. The colors what's saving it, I think. Having that strong blue versus the orange effect is keeping it separate enough. But my instinct compositionally would be to raise the Balrog's arm up, and then having this sword overhead. And then you could silhouette him and have a separate light source here that's threatening up at... So the two are actually threatening at each other. There's sort of, the implied swing at his head and the implied jab at his heart. It's pretty cool. That's my biggest observation, is that this is just clashing a little bit. The other thing you could do is tighten up the flame sword a little bit more where they cross. Let's get a richer color here. Because the lightsaber is pretty much, it's a beam of light itself, but with flame you can really, you can play with it a bit. And what it does, this would give us a clearer indicator of the one over the other. Very subtle. You see what I'm saying? Just breaking up those brights just a little bit. It wouldn't take much. Yeah, it was even more blown out. Okay. Yeah, I think, honestly, because the way you handled the flame is really nice, too. I would, if I were doing it, I would definitely change the pose a little. There is, pose-wise, there's something a little bit less dynamic about the Balrog. This guy's, like, down deep. You could probably get away with making the Balrog's head much bigger and putting it in deeper perspective by having it squat some. And because I see you just got rid of dealing with the legs with smoke, which is clever. It's a good way to do it. But it also means that you have this big chunk of just smoke in the shot. You could use that smoke to separate them a little bit more, if you're going to do that, and then make this thing feel gigantic compared to him. Like, it already feels big, but I think you could make it look much bigger. Let's see what that looks like real quick. I'm actually cutting this out with a lasso tool because the edges are going to really matter here for this overlap I'm about to try to do. Copy, merged, paste. And you could do the same thing with the head. And what this does is it makes, of course, it increases the threat of the thing, but what you want to do is imply a narrative in the staging of the scene. With how you had it, these two figures occupy about the same amount of space, and they're cut right down the center. So they basically feel like total equals, which is probably what you were after. That's fine. You can sell that in different ways other than making a balanced 1-to-1 ratio for size and shape occupying a frame. How you can do that is with pose, with the having the Jedi or whatever he is look less, he looks prepared. He looks plenty badass. You could make him very small compared to the Balrog and have him still look like he can handle himself, because it's going to be about how he's composed against this monstrous terror. Does that make sense? So in the same vein, let's turn these off real quick and let's grab the Jedi. And this is going to solve another issue that I will bring up shortly. Offset just a little bit. I mean, this guy doesn't look like he's particularly concerned. His mohawk will not be blown out of place by this battle. That was not the color I picked. Is this stuff working for you at all? So by changing the balance, a huge component of good composition is about how you balance or manage the imbalance of the staging or the just managing the shapes themselves. So you can tell a more intense story by changing and just moving these things around just a little bit, so that that there is no question about what it is you're trying to say that is happening. I know why, because I've done exactly what you're talking about. I know why you didn't get to this, and it's because you didn't want to lose the detail that you put into this foreground figure. You wanted him to look big and take up a huge chunk of the screen because you put all this time in the painting. Makes sense. But in support of your narrative, sometimes you have to sacrifice that. You need to do kind of what I call a graphic designer's perspective on your work. So I know I've mentioned this before in class, at least. I don't know if I've mentioned it in Twitch. But if you send in your finished illustration to a graphic designer, and let's say that graphic designer needs to do a magazine layout where they're going to add text and they're going to put in a title and all of that stuff, they will be ruthless with your art. They're going to cut shit up. They're going to move it around. They don't care, because your art now is basically a collage component. It is not an individual piece. It is a piece to a greater sum. And you've got to be able to approach your own work that way. It's the teacher's eyes, right? You want to be able to look at your stuff and reposition it without being precious about anything, so that you're getting the maximum punch for your narrative. Does that make sense? Yeah, I think these are pretty good tips. Okay. I think if you have the pieces still in all those layers, absolutely play with it. See if you can match the screen a little bit. Play around with it and take off the precious. Completely remove the preciousness and just start rearranging things brutally in order to make a cool composition. And I think you're probably going to come up with something pretty badass. And then post that on the Discord, right? Because the lighting is all sorted. It all feels really good. It's just right now about that composition. And the other thing that I was going to lead into with changing him is the jump in scale feels a little bit off, because the ground plane doesn't have the compression of detail. As it goes further into the distance, that compression needs to happen much faster. The ramp up. I don't know. You tried to post a link. Sorry. Not sure. All good. So Yeah, you're gonna want to compress that detail and the little horizontal detail, and it's gonna imply that foreshortening and the overlap as it goes back into the distance towards these busted up droids, because the droids are helping you sell the scale of the Balrog pretty significantly, and I think they're important to have there. But the lead up, the journey, the visual journey towards getting to them has to be in line with the scale that you've established so far. And because this guy was so big and set where he was in the foreground, it was making that space between the droids and his feet feel off. It wasn't wrong, just it felt off. Does that make sense? I would even throw in, like, I think it would be worthwhile to have some tumbled pillars and shit like that. Like, part of this smoke could be a pillar. So this is another compositional thing. Of course, you should absolutely use things like smoke and other effects or whatever to create shapes that break up your composition or introduce opportunities for overlap. But you don't want to necessarily make those all one thing. That shape can tell a story in and of itself. So that big triangle that we're making could be a pillar that's on fire or has, smoke is coming out of it. And then that pillar could be a nice offset, a shadow that the lit top part of the droid can overlap in front of. So it's this layering thing, light against dark, dark against light, and building that depth. So even a big sort of triangle compositional element that's just meant to separate something can be used to tell a story, and it can be used to further push distance. There is no wasted space in your composition. So take advantage of everything you've got, right? Cool. So hopefully that made sense. You got any other specific questions? I know this one was much, much quicker, but I think it was very specific. So if you have anything else you wanted me to cover. Oh, right. I was going to tell you about the soapy bits. So the hand on the Balrog holding that sword looks really good. There's something going on with the two hands here that make it look like, instead of him holding a tube in one direction, right, like this, it looks like he's holding it kind of like this, like he's holding a banana instead of a straight tube, because the angle of the back of the hand on the lower hand is in a slightly different position than the foregrip hand. You posted a composition variation in Discord? Awesome. Okay. So how I would handle that is pretty straightforward. I would just either even out the hand a little bit so that it's not, and it's such a minor thing. Even it out so it's not quite so ball shaped and it's more flat. But I don't think that works with the lighting that you've established so far with the lightsaber, because you have all these strong rim lights right there. I would actually go the other direction, and instead of lighting all of these knuckles, because these knuckles aren't really popping out, they're not undulating in form like the fingers themselves are. Your best bet would be to hit the top of the hand and the glove, and then do what you did with the other part of the hand and just go dark. And then you could carve in those details and make them darker instead of lighter. You can still have the knuckles. Just see what I'm getting at there? Even this should be a little bit more silhouetted. If this is meant to feel like leather is very similar to skin as it is skin. Okay. The Kung Fu foot pose, while accurate, feels odd. I don't know. What is it? I'm just seeing something in it. I think maybe it's that it's so lit here on the front side. If it's past our light source, I would not light it so much so it doesn't feel so kind of humped out, the arch of the foot there. And then you could do, I mean, you did some rim lighting from the right side, but I mean, your brightest light source is definitely over there. That is an awful color I just chose, and I should be spanked for that. So if you really wanted to accentuate that, I would go in that direction instead. Absolutely make this the secondary dominant light up here. Well, that making sense? Creating clear overlap with that shoulder, the shoulder and the back into the head. I think if you moved him forward like this, whoops, it would, oh, no, we can't do that there. It might solve that issue of the crossing of the swords. So that's kind of where the hand is, right? I'd probably go in that direction with it. And then his sword is sort of backed by the darkness of the hand, relative darkness of the hand. It might be too much, but you know, it's an idea. I'm undoing it and seeing. I like it better this way. I take that back. Grain of salt time. All right. Oh, you got some comments. Okay. That's what I mean by soapy. Yeah, it's just when a shape is mushy and it's not being lit correctly. It's sort of a catch-all. It's not a very good descriptor for art direction. But what I meant in this case and in Christina's case was a sort of a gummy lumpiness that's not refined in terms of the planes. You want to have clear planar breaks. You want to have clear lighting decisions, and feet and hands are really easy to get mushy because you're not confident in the underlying anatomy. Anybody else got any specific questions? You didn't follow the orange rim light. No problem. Let's go over it again. Okay, so you're talking about the rim light on the foot, right? Oh, behind the neck. All right, so basically what I'm doing here is he has two strong, come on now. Oh, I see. He's got two strong light sources, right? He's got the Balrog, we'll just call it the Balrog because it's everything about it, and then the lightsaber. So on this figure, the lightsaber's lit inside the cradle of the body. So the torso, the head, the face, the arms, that's all an interior light source that's being lit on the internal part of the body. The top side of the body has gone dark and in silhouette. He's bothered to do rim lighting from some light source that's off camera in this direction, presumably some kind of fire. But that light source is not nearly as strong as this light source. In fact, this is, potentially one of the brightest ones in there. These two things, right? So what I did is I wanted to draw overlap and break apart the silhouette by taking this light source and following the logic of that light coming down. So the perpendicular surfaces that are facing the light source in normal need to have light on them. So that's what I did. And the other aspect of that is that now he's got effectively kind of three really rich colors right next to each other, which is also foundationally making him the focal point, because he's got all of these really nice rich colors. So he's the color focal point as well as a light focal point. Does that make sense? So the decision was logic based and then followed through for narrative and color based. Okay, cool. It's a really cool image. I super dig it. This is a great portfolio piece. Let's turn all my notes off and double check what I said. Do you see what I'm getting at with the scale and the balance thing for composition? Totally threatening stories here, but push it. Find places to push it, and don't be precious. This goes for all of you. Don't be precious about your work. Once you've gotten to a certain point and you really want to challenge your composition, give it up and start using your graphic designer head or your art director head. Don't be precious because you painted it. Get in there, start carving it up. Be brutal, because the goal is to make the image stronger in the end as a whole. Okay? Yeah, great job, Dan Rob. All right, so I think that's going. Dan Rob, you didn't answer. Are you in the States or are you in the UK as well? Are you up super late? Oh, you're in Texas. Nice. Okay, that's right. You did tell me that. I'm sorry. My memory is terrible. And, you know, I'm one of those people where, like, my memory is so directly connected to visuals that just in text, I have a hard time connecting memory to those different things. So we got a couple of Texans in here. That was not a Texan accent. Sorry. Forgive me. Okay. So, who's all ready for a little bit of critter design? Number 1 with the bullet. Boosh. So, all of you other pieces of shit, you need to go. You're in the dumpster. Nobody likes you. You're all garbage. Just garbage. So you get to go to dead garbage. Look what you did. You killed it. Garbage. Dead. Destroyed. Forever. This is the price of your decisions. You monsters. Alright, so we're going to paint up this thing. I have no idea what it's going to be. I figured let's do an hour and a half, and then just play around, make some shapes, push some pixels. It's the underbite. Underbites are cute. It's just invariably true. It may not have the underbite in the end. We'll see where the muses take me. But this is our starting point officially. Good choice, gang. All right. I'm gonna dim this down a little bit. Let's play with a texture brush that I'm not particularly faithful to. I've told you this before. I like using texture brushes to do my initial sort of layout sketches. Hi, Izzy. To do just the quick ideation stuff, because then I'm not precious about the line quality itself, because I get kind of nerdy about like cool calligraphic shapes and lines. I don't want to do that. I want to just kind of just start pooping, getting some shapes in. I do kind of like the underbite, but I want to do something different with it. Maybe like a reverse beak. You know, kind of a trap jaw thing. Maybe its nose goes directly into the beak. I've kind of implied an eye there, but I don't know. One thing about using a texture brush that you're not precious about is that you get like all these fun little texture bits. What the hell just happened? We just exploded. Oh, Cypher. Thank you. That's so sweet. Awesome. Appreciate all those subs. Just paying it forward. Ah, cheers. I think you did it just for my little Fennec Fox robot boy there. I was so pleased with the Kaladesh trailer. When they do the magic, they used to do magic trailers using the art from the cards, and so they would hire these companies that would just sort of animate them. And that one was a really good one. I really liked it. I think I want to kind of do like an ugly cute thing. Not creepy, but just ugly. Little piggy eyes. Definitely got kind of a piggy boar feature to it. But this is going to be a beak or a scraping kind of surface instead. The question now is, does this remain a creature or does it go character? And how I generally define those things is like purpose and costume. Thanks, Cypher. Wow. It's still going. Aw. Kick ass. Natalie, welcome. Awesome. I can't see which little guy is there. Is that Gargamel from the Smurfs? Nobody remembers that. I'm old. Super old. So I think, yeah, some kind of weird hog monster. Why not? Why not? Life is short. Piggy. Piggy. I love it. Snail Man. How are you doing today, Natalie? You staying safe out of the smogs and smokes? I imagine LA is quite colorful right now, too. I'm going to just merge these two layers together. Whoops, can't do it while there's a transformation. Gova! Hey! Hey! Gova! Hey! Stop doing that. She is just going to town on herself. My goodness, I interrupted a moment there. It's pretty orange right now. Oh my god. Yeah, here too. It's like it's a very like Indian yellow color. It's crazy yellow in the sky here right now. Everybody's waking up sick and coughing. Thank you, Kova. That was appreciated. Good job. Let's go ahead and do a quick value pass just to kind of scar it up a little bit. I think maybe I'm going to do time to switch it up. Let's get some other. I'm just using value to kind of accentuate features that I want you to look at, right? Got an air purifier? Nice. That's the way. Just rain in the UK. You guys are lucky. It's not Armageddon there right now. Give it time. It's got kind of a Godzilla quality too with this skin texture. And also redoing the street. Oh no! Are they doing that like awful smelling tarmac stuff? That's awful. Oh, by the by, you all should absolutely be following Natalie. I think she uses the same handle on Instagram. Brilliant artist. One of my faves. I'm gonna just kinda... I'll figure that out later. And just... I don't know. I don't know what that is. I might get rid of some of that. Duh, yeah you are. Don't give me that crap. Ugh. I can't stand that smell of that tar. It's so strong and pervasive. Further selling point for Natalie is if you guys saw the Shape of Water, the artist, the old gentleman in the movie, the next door neighbor, the art that he did in the scenes is actually Natalie's work. So if you liked that, go give her a follow. Super cool sketches. It was all charcoal, right? Hell yeah, follow. So good. Yeah, that's on my to-do list for sure. Someday do a gig with Guillermo, a major hero of mine too. Ideally, someday I get to be a Guillermo. Someday. Okay, so we've got some nice underlying texture. I think this is enough that we can kind of do like a fun little bit of color. Do it! I must. I must. You know what I'm gonna do? Let's see. Which one of you? I'm gonna use Dan Rob's image. We're gonna do a little collab here, Dan. Sort of. I'm gonna paste. Watch as I completely smash and mush your art around. Sorry, bud. I just wanted your color information. Alright. All I need is variation, just some variety. What's a fun color here we're gonna play with? I think the last couple of things have been greeny purples. Let's do something ruddy red. Orangey greens. Ooh, that's nice. I do this a lot, so it just happened to be that your image was one of the first ones open. I'll just grab whatever and just get going with it. I want the flesh to read more ruddy and than the environment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of use the complement in the environment and push. I did nothing. There was no theft here, officer. I will get away with it too. Alright, let's grab that red. Red. Juicy. Okay, new layer. I think we're gonna do some value play. I want to super fuck up this color. So I'm gonna grab one of my cool color banding brushes. See which one's gonna give me the most bang for my buck. Again, this is just I'm adding textures, little bits of color, little bits of value breaks, and it's just me finding shapes in the clouds, essentially. How far in are we? About 20 minutes? That's a pretty good spot for 20 minutes. See how it's... I think this is something... Who's it? Jeff Simpson does? Does these nice overlay layers, and then he gets these cool color artifacts, like these greens and little bits of blues and stripy bits. Oh, that's awesome. I like it. I like it. Okay, let's do a... We've got a lot of light. I'm gonna do... levels, and let's knock down the contrast a bit. I want to compress the contrast so that I have a tighter value key, so that I have more room to play with in my rendering. I'm going to get rid of some of my lights. I'm going to get rid of just a little bit of my darks. I think that's a good... Yeah, that's a good spot. And then what I can do is paint directly into the mask and bring back some of that stuff. So not all the information is lost, right? And by doing this, I'm automatically implying a light direction, a light source. It's kind of making me think of I can't remember the characters from what was it? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. There was the big turtle one. The bad guys that were basically infants. I can't remember the character's name. It's like a snapping turtle. To my credit, I haven't seen that movie in like 20 years. Maybe more. Maybe more. Alright, let's do some accent values. My favorite. I want to... One of the big features that I want to show in this is going to be, because I really like what it's doing, is kind of this folding of the flesh of the lip and the meat, kind of like an English bulldog. I want this kind of massive floppy meat chunk bits. I have a way with words. What can I say? Jowls. Yeah, that's the one. His puppy jowls. That's going to have to be a strong overlap, and I think I'm going to need some strong shadows here. See, with all that information in there from the bits of overlap and my weird color additions and stuff like that, it's given me places to kind of just find detail and shape. And so I just follow where it leads me. It's less active. It's become more passive. I just follow. Does that shit ever work? Oh, Irina, you're a saint. Thank you. All right, now let's grab a nice flat. Start doing some building. We've been defining and searching. Now we can do some pretty serious rendering and commit. I'm really enjoying painting with this flat brush lately. My this last lesson I did, I don't know if any of you have watched it yet, but the last lesson for Patreon I did almost entirely with this brush. Painting, teaching how to paint foliage, like small plants, and kind of figuring out the recipes for plants in your illustrations. And it was almost all this brush. I'm digging on it lately. Sometimes you just go through these little phases, you know, where it's just something you're digging. Nice. Saying of which, for the Student Plus tier patrons, keep an eye on your inboxes. I'm hoping to have your bonus episode codes out later this evening. I have not forgotten you. I'm kind of like thinking of like a rooster's comb now. So I'm mixing the comb with the jowls. This thing is ugly as sin. This is definitely a more green-red look. So I'm gonna have to knock back some of that green, since the last creature was pretty green too. You have all the episodes anyway? Oh my god. I think you're the first. Or one of the first. Were you able to get them through the Student Plus tier? Is that how you got caught up? I want some kind of strong shape. I don't know what it's going to be, but I just want something to break up the forms here. The way I'm kind of thinking about this is all still technically neck. So this creature is just tons of neck. Let's select all, copy, merge, paste in. Whoops. We've got all except for the atmosphere one, Ixie. Holy crap! Wow. I really got to get on those other episodes. We're missing. I don't have about 10 episodes right now. The latest episodes currently on Gumroad. I have to get on that. I have just been slammed lately. I gotta solve for neck right now because this is upsetting. You know what? Let's pinch it completely. Oh yeah, that's what we gotta do for sure. Let's pinch it. Ah, gotta be done. Yes. Yes, please. Now we're doing a corporate boardroom portrait. I knew it would work out in the end. I'm so amused by that waddle that develops from wearing really tight-throated dress shirts. The pontificating politicians. Real quick, I gotta start up the next playlist. Come on now. It's always weird when everything just goes silent. Let's do you, whatever you might be. I love Spotify, but it's been good in that I'm able to discover all sorts of new music. It's bad in that I have no retention. I just like the music and it doesn't make me a new fan of anything. Just a constant consumer at this point. Oh yeah, neck meats. This is not a friendly guy. I guess we're not pulling off ugly cute so much. Just super amused with these sheets of flesh. Hey, Dimaj, welcome. How's it going? Thanks for stopping in for a minute. It's always good to see you. So now I'm trying to work back a bit. I made it so colorful and so and chunked up the values so much that it's something I'm having to fight against. So now it's unifying time. And I find for myself that the unifying needs to be done in big, bold moves. Be bold and not precious, and just make hard decisions. And you know, you can always, I mean, it's digital, so you can get away with a hell of a lot. Basically, I have to fight back the mud that I made. Like I said, you can get a lot of inspiration and interesting artifacting happening. These happy accidents will occur if you embrace the mud first, trusting that you can bring it back. All right, let's do a light pass again. New layer. Let's keep the rich color. Doing a little bit of line decker style, you know, just crossing over the contours with a harsher brush stroke. And Kova, hey, Kova, stop, hey, don't do that. She's gonna make herself bleed again. My dog has OCD, and she gets fixated on stuff, so anytime she gets a little hot spot or something like that, it can become like a very messy thing very fast. Just relax. Everything's fine. The world is not ending. Don't tell her. I don't want to completely cover everything up, so I'm painting, you know, with a softer opacity, so that those weird undulations of color and varied hues can still pop through, almost as an underpainting. I did a similar stroking effect with the last creature, and it came out looking like feathers, and so I want to avoid that. So instead of doing short little quick things, I'm trying to do a little bit more sweeping, following the contours of the flesh. How old is Kova? She's going to be, I think she's 7 now. And yeah, I'm super familiar with her obsessive behaviors at this point, so I just sort of start heading them off before they get too bad. It's unsettling for people though, because they think I'm being mean to the dog. Like, no, you don't understand. This dog has problems. She's a very sweet dog though, otherwise. Just a little special. Aren't you special? Who's my special little princess down there? Always getting into trouble. I'm kind of thinking about, you know, outside of just the sort of push and pull of these wrinkles and forms, I'm thinking about kind of the underlying anatomy, even though I don't know what the hell this thing is. I want to imply things like glands and lymph nodes and gross sounding medical stuff like that. Let's cool that off, lighten it up, do a new layer. See, I knew you had the imagination for this, Irina. Let's do a brush change. We've been hugging on one brush a little too long. One of us. One of us. So what I'm purposefully trying to avoid doing right now is making speculars. I don't want to make speculars. I still want it to feel, I want this to feel like really bunched up bits of flesh and lymph nodes, as Irina added. I think these definitely got to be like little kind of, I don't know, warty masses. Oh yeah, that's the stuff. Some little gross face sores or something. This is going to be interesting. I wonder if I can find a way to make it cute again. Like somewhere in the middle. What do you think? What will be the key to that? Maybe the eyes, huh? You're not understanding its features? That's all right. I don't think I understand them either right now, and that's probably contributing to the problem here. So We're gonna have to kind of figure that out. Let's say we need to, okay, first let's define the neck a little bit better. We know that we're going to need to have overlaps. Little parts where the flesh is hanging. And then we need to figure out the skull. Because I think you're right. I think there's some fundamental essence missing. Alright, so let's take a look at this skull. Let's make a new layer and let's actually start drawing that out. Yeah, it's definitely kind of a turkey or a chicken comb. Or what are those little dollopy bits? Hey, schmoove it. It's the chicken wing? Yes. It is the chicken wing brought to life. Okay, so let's see. I want to have kind of a skull here. It's got a jawbone. Sort of an insertion there. And it's a beak rather than a jaw. So, neck, probably something like that. Obviously that's too thick, but maybe it thickens up fast. Orbital socket. Deep nose. Okay, so if we're going off of that, we need to figure out this shape here. It's the bottom of the jaw that's unclear, I think. So let's make a sharp edge to that. Let's commit to a jaw. Of course, where the jowls are, they need to hang over it and kind of be these little pipes of flesh that hang over the side of that. But the only way that they're very clear is if there's an offset. So let's, whoops, bloody thing. If we follow it's like all the trimmings off the turkey turned into a character. Let's completely circle the beak also with skin, so it doesn't feel like it's kind of coming out of, and the skin is just layered on top, which is going to change this chin part a bit. Are we getting political? What? Whatever could you mean? This is not a politics channel. Like just my natural bias towards rich people. So I need to also kind of figure out how the top part of this head is going to fit in here. Whoops. Come on now. I'm going cooler here because I'm thinking about the mass of bone that's under there. Maybe we'll get rid of the hair and the little fuzz for now because it's just confusing the form. And like Irina said, I think we need to understand the structure of this thing first. Yes! One of us! Shorn. I kind of want to... I like this. There's a rhythm here. But I want to make sure that the jaw stays separate, so... I think this is going to be the right thing to do here about that structure, is big brush it for a minute. We've been depending so much on texturing. Sometimes you got to back up and just make some big, bold decisions in terms of the graphic structure of the thing. This side I want to be cool and light. You need some places for the eye to rest, you know? Let's get out one of my favorite tools. Oops. I like doing red liners. I haven't done a lot of this stuff lately. Like leaving the lines in and just using rich color to do it. So I have the big fields of color, and I can introduce little hints of other colors, but I don't want to break up the fields too much. You know what I'm saying? Once again, everything I paint is chicken wing. We're team chicken wing in here. Hey, like that, gang. Dino, what's up? Welcome. We are painting a fleshy nightmare today. Yeah, you did. Cypher came through and sprinkled everyone with a little bit of joy today. You all can thank them. Hey, good night, Irina. Thanks so much for hanging and for modding today. I really appreciate it. We'll see you later. Get some good rest. Ghost Shiv, welcome. How's it going? Yeah, so like we were talking about with the trying to figure out the structure of the thing, by spending a little more time at the top, we're bringing the focal point back towards the top and less about the little jiggly neck meats at the bottom. We'll get back to them and we'll sort of refine them more later, but we really had to figure out this structure first. I think it was a good direction, good note. Yeah, when does Lightbox start? Is that this weekend? Oop. It's tomorrow. Oh my god. I think I'll still be broadcasting this weekend, despite it being on. I know that I won't have anybody on, but it's just good to stay in the routine. I can't wait to watch some. There's going to be some good panels, I'm sure. Who are you all excited to see? What? Carla's doing oils? Oh, that's going to be sweet. Wes Burt, Jason Chan. Nice. That's a great lineup. Yeah, I'm going to have to lean in on some of those for sure. Hmm. There's a framed ink 2 reveal. You've got to be kidding me. Oh, fuck. That's going right in my Amazon. Sweet. Hey, yeah, one of these days we'll have to hop in there. I did a talk, a very short talk last year, or it was more of a panel actually with so many great artists. It was a really cool one. Yeah, I have the first framed ink. It's fantastic. That guy is some hot shit. An illustrated novel panel with Ian McCaig, Greg Manchester, Victoria Ying, and more. I'm gonna have to see that one because that's what we're doing in here. That's gonna be a must see. Thanks for the heads up. Is everybody in here going? I'm glad they still went through with it, you know? Despite the plague and everything. They found a way. Life finds a way. Oh man, that's gonna be so inspiring. Yeah, like I said in the last session, I really just loved just hanging out with everybody and seeing all of my favorite artists, and this is great. I'm trying to finish your piece for the Proco figure challenge. How's that going? I think we need to have a distinct... There has to be a sharp edge that doesn't fade away to dark here. We got to be bold. Doesn't have to be the brightest, but it definitely has to terminate bright. Yeah. And I need to bring this eye back out somehow. You don't know why you're gonna bother streaming? Oh, it's so fun. When are you up, Natalie? I gotta get in there. Oh, Dino, that's a cool idea. I think definitely, you know, chunking in as many of the lessons as you can into pieces is a great way to start using them and practically apply them in your pipeline, you know? You're just going to be up randomly. You goofed on the schedule. Oh, come on. Avid, welcome. Hi. Well, you know, it's the first time, right? So you're just going to be going up at random times, sort of like an interim. There's not a set schedule for you, Natalie? Oops. I always mess up the applications, you know? So I end up getting looked over entirely because I just mess up. Or I forget. I'm so forgetful. Sweet. Are you going to be working digitally or mostly, do you have a camera set up for traditional stuff? What are you thinking about doing? You got a game plan? That makes sense. Oh, Kova's dreaming. Switching back and forth. So you've got all that rig. That's so cool. Oh, you're using your phone as the camera. Nice. Are they setting it up so that it's all going to be through some proprietary Lightbox app? Or is it you guys are just... Everybody's doing their own, like some are doing Twitch and some are doing Instagram. Is it more like that? Natalie's amazing. So I'll check it out. Yeah, post, Natalie, go ahead and post your schedule or your site or whatever for the, for Lightbox so everybody can watch. If I'm not putting you on the spot. Sorry, I didn't even think to ask. I'm just like, blah, 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 blah. This person's cool. Oh, okay, cool. I'll be watching on Twitch then. Sweet. Yeah, I was just hesitant having to download more stuff, more apps, more things. You'll probably doing a 10 a.m. Cool. Hopefully your Twitch will announce when you're on. I do think it's going to be harder to network in general. I think that maybe this event this time might be more education oriented. I don't know. I know that they're doing some like remote portfolio reviews and things like that, so I'm sure there's still opportunity out there. Nice. Did see 4 reviews on the schedule. Oh, I'm certain they'll be swarmed, but they'd be swarmed in person as well. Guaranteed. I think kind of hinting at stubble would be interesting. How about that? Since I have kind of a cool pate at the top, I can kind of imply... Let's do a new layer just for that. You've got work on Friday and Saturday. It'd be worth calling in. That's a personal choice one for sure. Oh, the Discords. I imagine they're already hopping, to be honest. Thanks, Tina. You missed the vote. We voted for initial super, super rough sketches. This guy won because he was cute. Oh no. Did you get it? Did you get it all fixed? Laptops are tough. I got to change the battery in mine. Ah, that's a fun one. Yeah. The tool set itself is a pain. It's always for me it's always the opening the clamshell stuff. I'm always afraid I'm gonna break everything, just manhandling it. You know, something that I've not been able to paint very well in the past is stretch marks. They're really tough to paint convincingly. I was just thinking about that because these aren't quite them, but there is sort of this stretched, broken down effect to how the skin is being pulled here. Like some parts where the flesh is still holding strong and other parts where it's become really thin. And I mean, that's essentially how stretch marks work, but it's just one of those subtleties that's continued to evade me. I haven't seen it done really convincingly in sculpture either. But it's such a part of flesh. I think I'm close. Like the recipe is in here. So I want to definitely round out and finish out these forms here and give them color and pay them homage, but I'm very concerned that the details that I'm adding now are pulling away from that face, like up at the top. So I gotta find a way. I'm looking at my navigator right now to kind of see what I can do. It's probably going to be a color or maybe like a harsh highlight right up there at the top that's going to bring my viewer's eye back where I want them to be. But in the meantime, I'm keeping that in the back of my head. In the meantime, I'm just going to keep finishing out these forms on the bottom.
I'm Izzy, a professional writer, concept artist, and illustrator. I've taught painting for a...
That was weird and super not intended. Sorry, guys. That was weird. I did not press that button. Huh. Everybody still there? Did I lose you? This is a sensitive little stream deck I've got here. I wanted to jump to my my Spotify controls. I'm done! Blah! Blah! Slam, flip table. I have no idea what's supposed to be happening here. Like tubes of flesh going into itself. It's this awful Escher-esque floppy. Ah. Is it blurry? Let me look. I'm real sorry about this, gang. I didn't mean to fuck it up. It's looking okay on my feed. It looks all right here. Bear with it for a minute. Maybe refresh your page. It could be that I just messed up the flow. Okay. Sorry about that. What an inconvenience. All right. That did the trick. Great. I did have the Dune talk yesterday, or the last visit, but that was before the trailer dropped, I think. That was just talking off the all we knew about it. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it personally. I think it's kind of it's living in this uncanny valley world where if where they're worried about straying too far from the visual material that already exists. And I understand that fear because, of course, then everybody's going to say, well, it doesn't look like the other one and blah, blah, blah. So you got to deal with that. You got to expect that that's going to come down the pipe. But I guess my concern is definitely on the other end, that it's not different enough. But we'll see. I mean, it was kind of cool seeing the different actors, you know. Some interesting design choices. But I mean, in terms of the look, the costuming in particular, it just felt very much like the old one, the old film. I did see a couple of discussions going on my different friends' Facebooks and things like that about how some people were really upset that it didn't have much Arabic representation because they didn't think that Dune had any kind of Arabic origin. And I'm like, what are you talking about? This so clearly is referencing specific cultures and peoples. It's kind of a weird thing to fixate on. To a classic sort of Gamergator crowd. Most of the sets are practical. Wow. That's pretty epic. I'm really digging what they're doing with sort of this mixed practical visual effects stuff like they did for The Mandalorian. That is amazing. I mean, you know, in-camera effects, the technology's just gotten insane. I'm so impressed. And I mean, what's cool about all of this stuff, all of these big advancements, is it just makes, you know, smaller studios, it just gives them so much more ability to kind of deliver that bigger look. It's so cool. I mean, it's like, you know, people are making movies with their iPhones and shit. That's awesome. Oh my god, they filmed in Jordan. Well, that's awesome. It's like Tarsem Singh on The Cell and The Fall, rather. Sorry, The Fall. I love that movie. That's one of my favoriteest movies of all time. If you've never seen Tarsem Singh's The Fall, get on that. Order the Blu-ray, watch it right now, cry, weep with joy. Thank me when you come back. And what the claim to fame that he had for that, it's a fairy tale story, and all of the sets and all the environments that you see in it are real places on Earth, and it's just mind-blowingly beautiful. And then the story itself also is just, oh, so good. I did have a fun gripe session about Mulan. I did catch it yesterday. I was not pleased. Understanding, of course, that it's not a film made for me, but I thought it had major weaknesses in the story, in the plot. It's still got the heart racing here and there, though, so I guess, you know, it did its job. The Mandalorian tech feels like a giant step. Yeah, it popularizes the high budget graphics, but at the same time, it makes them accessible to lesser filmmakers in terms of budgets, because the things that they're doing are all digital. You know, they're building environments, and then they're able to shoot actual practical characters and props and inside a digital environment through the camera. That's so cool. I love it. Oh yeah, the visuals in The Fall are some of the best. It's one of those movies that I like to go back and just sit through and kind of, I don't know, just bathe in when it, you know, once a year or something like that. I'll watch it once every couple of years. It's brilliant. Everybody that worked on it just crushed it. And not a lot of people know about that movie. It was pretty, it didn't have a massive reception, which is a total travesty in my book. It is one of the best movies of all time. It's got what's his name in it. I'm spacing on his name right now. The guy from shit. Lee Pace, that's his name, and he's so good. And he plays counter to this little girl who it's her first time acting, and oh my god, that kid. They all deserve Oscars. So I'm trying to make interesting shapes and sort of really saturated colors and lines up here, because I didn't want to lose my my focal point up here. So I'm going to be doing these little tidbits. You want to think of it almost like little bits of dessert, visual dessert. So your viewer has a reason to kind of languish in this area and explore it. You know, their eye will be drawn to it a little bit longer. You want to reward them for spending the time there with these little treats. And you'll notice I'm putting these little papillae here, right next to the eye. I want you to spend time here. This is the not so subtle art of manipulation on your viewer. But hey, it works. You ugly cry watching it every single time, really? I definitely, it has made me cry, especially the first time I watched it. It was like brutal. It's a brutal movie. So beautiful. The title was translated to The Angel Stuntman in Portuguese. Really? I guess that kind of works. The Fall, I really like The Fall as a title because it's so, it's really transcendent. It works on so many planes. I'm definitely drawing on my visual vocabulary from Turtles on this thing. I'm thinking about the turtles that I used to actually have a pair of turtles way back in the day, and the ones that I'm seeing. So I'm thinking about like the soft shell turtle. It has vulture-like attributes, of course, as well. But right now I'm thinking scales and kind of scutes. I want to hint more at scales and scutes. So I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to just kind of see if I can get away with implying scutes, even though scutes traditionally are on the back of the turtle. And it's not much, but I hope that it evokes those things so that it kind of forces my viewer to step out of the bird aspect just a touch, unconsciously. Portuguese titles are pretty off, huh? Everyone has the twin they deserve. A what? That's awesome. Well, Jack and Jill doesn't translate to any language, really. That's such a uniquely English-based parable. Is that the word? Rhyme, nursery rhyme. That's one of the things I really found fascinating when I was trying to teach myself another language was how idioms just do not translate. And how much you take idioms for granted. Idioms being, these sort of memes. They're shortcuts for meaning. And they shortcut directly for the person that speaks that language. But if you don't speak that language, it means nothing to you. And you're like, what the shit? Like, think about things, particularly in English, that are just so out there, like getting to third base, or we have a lot of sports idioms. It's weird, but there's so many that they have very significant specific meanings. But if you speak English or you don't speak English, it doesn't make any fucking sense at all. So when I was in Mexico, I was learning Mexican idioms, and it was just like super absurd. Can't think of any off the top of my head, and all of the ones that I want to make up would actually make some kind of sense. So I like some of the phrases, like "What a fart you are." What? Would you call me? Everything's farts in Mexican Spanish. I don't know if that's true in Portuguese. I know they're rooted similarly, but they're totally different languages. But sometimes I follow a few reporters in Brazil, and they'll post on occasion in Portuguese, and I can kind of work it out with a little bit of Spanish I know. Yeah, so by drawing attention, I'm gonna make a new layer here. By spending the time to kind of draw attention with these things, I'm framing the eye with detail. So while I have a lot of cool colors and a lot of interesting variations down here, the brush strokes up here are so tight and small that hopefully the idea is that you're gonna be drawn back up to that space again and again. You watched a Star Trek episode where they went to a planet and the aliens only talked in memes. I was what was it? I think I was watching a Red Letter Media or something like that, and they were talking about that memes episode, and I was looking for it, and I don't know what the name of the episode is. So if you remember it, Avid, please let me know, because I want to watch it. I'm really curious. I don't remember it. I watched all of the TNG episodes when they all came out. That was one of the last shows that I would wait in front of the TV for the show to start, and then the theme song would kick on, and I'd get all excited. I loved that shit. I loved it. There's nothing you can't do that with binge watching anymore. It kind of ruined that waiting in front of the TV excitement. But yeah, I remember a lot of TNG. I do not remember that episode at all. Not even a little bit. Yeah, Red Letter Media is fantastic. The skewts are simple yet translate so well. Thanks. You the original series on DVD? Nice. I couldn't get into the original series as much. I started with The Next Generation, so I was expecting that level of, really high-tech, awesome effects. No joke, that was really like the reason I didn't like the old one, is the TNG's effects just kicked its ass. I'll have to give the original a chance. I know that it's one of those things where like it's so ubiquitous. It's everywhere. It's referenced constantly. And when you watch it, you kind of got to go, you got to remember that this was where it started, you know? And I do need to watch TNG again. Lizard fight episode. I've seen like clips, but it's so mimetic at this point that like I only know the meme. I know the fight music, but it was just never something I really saw. It's funny how that works, isn't it? Have I watched Picard? Oh, I watched like 4 episodes of it, and it kind of fell off for me. I couldn't stay interested. And to be honest and fair, I was watching Red Letter Media, and they hated it, and that kind of they absolutely influenced me on that. So I'm definitely going to have to own that a little. That I was completely. I did give it a chance. I did try, but they very thoroughly put that thing in the bin for me. I've learned, I trust the Red Letter Media guys' breakdowns on things pretty well. I definitely differ in opinion with some stuff. Like, I like that they have a few different guys on that have very different views on cinema and media, and so you get kind of this nice mix of views and approaches to how they critique. But I agree with them on a lot of stuff, more often than not. I also love Phil Mento, if anybody watches him. He does these little video cinema essays where he really digs into writing. I love writing critique on YouTube. That's like one of the primary things I watch YouTube for, other than politics. Because everybody loves having super high blood pressure all the time. What? That sounds like a crazy episode. Yeah, Darmok. That sounds. Oh, Darmok is the meme one. Okay. Yeah, it's crazy. I know the full premise of the lizard fight scene episode, but haven't actually watched it all the way through. That's how complete the mimetic of it is. I'm jumping around. So, in the last couple of Twitch sessions that we've had together, I mention a lot talking about holding off on speculars until the end. And I do that most of the time, but on this one we're just we're going back and forth where I'm parts where I want it to look like a turtle and parts where I want it to look like chicken skin, you know, little goose flesh. I don't want this to be a specular driven piece. I want the meat to feel, the skin to feel like skin, have that mid-tone, um, somewhat matte, just a little bit of shine in the places where it's stretched. I'm definitely thinking about like packages of chicken, you know, with the skin on, some skin on, leg and thigh bones. I feel so bad for anybody just coming in randomly, just seeing this and being like, oh, oh. Actually, no, I'm very amused imagining that now. Good God. He is beautiful. He is our own, our precious. Yes, yes, is mine. Whoa, somebody's getting grumpy. Kova gets fussy when she sits still for too long. Pretty. For one of the world's laziest dogs, she gets very antsy sometimes. I kind of feel like we should see something about this structure isn't working. What if we add some depth? We need to add some depth and mass, maybe. I'm gonna make a new layer, and let's maybe imply the other side of the skull here. Like he's got really large. I mean, to use a jaw this big, the masseters on this thing have to be huge. Oh no, there's definitely something wrong with me. But I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it. Excellent. I think kind of just hinting at a breadth so it doesn't feel so flat will help kind of sell the jaw that being a rounded, you know, beak shape instead. But I think I may also need to kind of just do some quick implications of like, it shouldn't take much. Excuse me. That was one of those little surprise ones that just appeared. Maybe this thing can split in half and you both can have one. Oh, yeah. That's the good stuff right there. We need to get a little bit of chiaroscuro in here on the face, I think, or on this beak, I think, just to kind of play a little bit of lost and found. So let's go ahead and take a moment just to push this reflected light. I don't have it anywhere else. It's a little bit overwhelming. I like I love it when the underpainting bleeds through on a painting. I love that. I think it looks so cool, but it can be easy to let it sit too strongly. So you got to find that little happy medium, just a touch. Kova, hey, Kova, hey, Kova, stop! You're gonna start bleeding again. Yeah, she's very violent. Like I said, I can always tell when she's starting to get antsy. She starts her little OCD behaviors start kicking out a little bit more frequently. Oh, she's got like a hot spot in her throat, and I think she scratches it in her sleep. And you know, like when you scratch a dog and they do the little kicky legs. So whenever she has something that triggers that for her little kicky legs, she won't stop doing it. So that she'll do that hotspot thing, and she'll do it. And I mean, I have found her a couple of times just coated in blood. She'll just scratch, and never stop. She'll also, one of her other really strange ones, I learned this one really early. That's when I was like, there's something wrong with this dog. She drinks water until she vomits. So she doesn't know when to stop. I have to actually tell her to stop sometimes. It wasn't a problem on the boat, but here it's kind of a pain. And of course, as I mentioned, when you have to shout at the dog to stop drinking, people are like, "Oh my God, what's that guy doing to that dog? That poor dog." I'm like, no, dude, clean up soupy vomit after every drink for 7 years, and you will stop the dog from doing that thing. She licks literally everything. Yeah. They all have their own little quirks. You just gotta learn them and work with them. It is what it is, as Dear Leader would say. See, I'm definitely laboring over this area, and I think it's working. I think it's rewarding enough. I think we're pretty close to done with this. It's laboriously over-rendered in parts, and then in other parts pretty sketchy, so it's kind of fun. It's different. Oh, by far, this is the best chat. Yeah. Yeah, I think this is pretty much it. We're done. I can noodle forever. I've found that the key is just when you can find a place where you're content enough to just walk away, that's a good spot to stop. There's tons more I could do on this to refine it, to detail it, but there is such a thing as just doing too much, and learning that point is pretty good. So I can show you kind of my thinking here. So all of this has been an exercise in drawing the eye. We have a whole bunch of wrinkles and shapes that are designed to kind of sweep you up towards one direction. I have high contrasts down here that hopefully kind of help. There's information down here that's interesting. The textures are interesting, but it's not heavily rendered at all. Like some of these are just two tones. And then it as we smoothly go towards the focal point, becomes more and more detailed. There's more and more tighter, smaller shapes. And then right as we get into the focal point, that's where we do our little juicy bits. So you can see I did, as I mentioned before, I started going more towards a turtle kind of feel. I wanted to bring back some of the cuteness. Sorry, bumping the mic. And so I opened the eye up a little bit, made it a little less scary. It's still totally creepy and hideous, but it's got a sweetness or an earnestness to it that feels a little less awful. It's still a horrible, disgusting creature, but I hope it has like a hint of humanity to it. I am going to do one last thing now that I'm looking at it, because I'm just cheap like this. I am going to do an illustration bloom. You're going to like this. If you've been with me for a while, you've seen me do it before, but it never gets old to see it in play. I have this opportunity right here where I have a really strong light. And again, this is all in aid to my focal point. I've got a really strong light here that's right in front of a dark shadow. So what I want to do is bloom that edge. And this is very much a traditional painting technique. The important thing is you can't have dark banding between the glow and the edge. So I have to be very careful. See these little dark spots? They must be filled. And then once they're done, then you can just kind of bloom to your heart's content. You can make it real big if you want. This is too much, of course, but bloom, bloom, bloom. And then I'm going to just touch it back just a little bit. It's a happy little bloom. Flip it so I can see it fresh. Let's knock it back just a touch more. I've seen it done really over the top, even in like, Renaissance, like really old school painting. And I mean, it works, but I like it when it's really subtle. Like it's a very, very tiny, subtle thing. Where it's more about softening an edge than it is about creating a lighting effect. Making a new layer. This is technically not red up here, but I'm going to use the same technique, or I'm going to try it. This is exploratory right now. It's something that happens traditionally, naturally, because you have to paint back and forth between two edges. You got to paint the figure and the ground, and sort of just soften those edges. And by doing that, you mix the local colors of those two things, and it creates this halo effect naturally. And then, of course, illustrators and painters pushed it and made it even more luminous looking over time. But it is one of those things. It's like I've said about style. There's no such thing really as developing a style. The style just happens, usually by virtue of your weaknesses and the materials at hand. And so this is a thing that's a stylistic detail that found its origin in just the natural combination of certain materials. But it looks cool, so fuck it, let's do it. Would this be due to subsurface scattering or more like a camera lens thing? Ultimately, when you look at somebody with certain lighting scenarios, you do see this kind of blooming. It can be a number of things. Sometimes it's light bending, sometimes it's subsurface scattering, and sometimes it's just the lens. It's dependent on the situation, and it's a good idea to practice your eye and test to see if you can figure out why the light is behaving in this way on the edge of things. Get up close, examine it, really explore. And that kind of curiosity about light is going to be very beneficial to you in terms of understanding and developing the skills to mimic these effects using the logic. I want to just a little bit refine. I told you I could noodle all day. I want to refine the snoot just a bit so that we see, since I turned the rest of the head, we need to see just a little bit of the front of his little snoot here. I'm just going to follow the scute rhythm that I had already. And this little detail is going to make him even more cute. I love mixing the cute and the creepy. It's my favorite. So now he's got kind of almost a little rosy, what is it, a pink fairy anteater kind of snoot. Super cute. It is interesting, I love light. I love paying attention to it and kind of trying to figure out what's going on. It's a fun game, and it's that fun game that I used to play in college, like trying to imagine, okay, what colors would I mix, or why is the light doing this sort of thing, became the logic of light and color that I teach. So, I mean, having fun and playing those games on your own you never know where it'll lead you. I found it was super interesting myself. Yeah, nice. You're looking at it too. And everybody will think you're a kook. You're just sitting there like, whoa. Like you haven't even had any acid. You're just having fun, admiring light. Anyway, so that's it for today. Thanks for hanging out, gang. We had a good, nice, long 3-hour session. We did some critting. If you're interested in getting crits, check out the Patreon page. The other way to do it is just follow along and watch and collect enough Zed bolts to redeem for a critique. And that is one of the reward requests that we have here on the channel. So you can see what it's like and all that good stuff. Yeah, it's real fun. Thanks for hanging out. Hope you all enjoyed yourselves. And until next time, paint smart, paint sexy.
I'm Izzy, a professional writer, concept artist, and illustrator. I've taught painting for a dozen years or so, on and offline. Many of your favorite illustrators and designers have studied with me or under me and have gone on to teach in their own right. You're here because, like they did, you want to learn to paint realistically for illustration or concept art. Well, worry not. You're in the right place. Grab a seat. I want you to join me as I explain all the aspects of image making in extremely digestible and clear monthly lessons. Not through the lens of silly how to paint hair or eye demos. That shit is carnival tricks. And you're not really learning anything except an exact way to render one thing in one manner. This is painting mysticism at its worst. Watching these kinds of exploitative lessons won't help you level up with your understanding. Sure, now you can paint sparkly hair, but what if you want to paint a dragon, or figure out how to render a sea of fire, or depict a one-eyed transgender space marine dying in the vacuum of space? Painting and image making are tools of communication, and can be learned by anyone willing to put in some time. Like grammar is for language, light, color, and form literally follow a formula. Painting well is not a matter of chicken bones, zombie crackers, and the ever-dismissive concept of talent. Learning with my series, Izzy's Logic of Light and Color, will give you the tools and understanding so you can analyze light and form in reality and bring it to life in your work. Using this simple system I have distilled will help you harness your art to share your ideas as you've always intended. When we are children, we all draw in symbols. Symbols for our house, our hands, the sun, the grass, our pet lobster. As we grow into artists, we must learn to throw away symbols and begin to draw and paint what it is we actually see. And as we grow further, we learn to paint beyond what we see and what is actually there. Until finally we move beyond this and learn to trim away what is actually there so we voice only what we want. With me, you're going to have to buckle in and maybe take some pain meds, because I'm going to rip out your normal person's eyes and replace them with a painter's eyes. I'm going to restructure how you see and how you understand what you're seeing. I'm going to turn you into a painting machine. Truly, anyone can learn to paint realistically if they can both determine what they're seeing or imagining with basic and straightforward rules. Once you understand the mechanics of light, color, and form in reality, you will have the capacity to paint anything you can see or imagine realistically. After that, the real fun begins. Here are some of the ways you can join me and master the logic of light and color. The very first lesson of my series is totally free on my YouTube channel. In that lesson, I give you the 3 primary rules of light that are the very foundation of painting and understanding light itself. If you do nothing else to make your painting mastery easier, at least watch this amazing little lesson. It will do more for your basic understanding of light than just about any tutorial you can find. When you're ready to get deeper and you feel like you have those first rules figured out, allow me to utterly blow your mind with the next episodes available on Gumroad and ArtStation. As we go deeper into the rules underlying the logic of light and color, I carefully and simply explain important and interesting elements. From beginner to pro, there is an amazing amount of information available. Each concept has been distilled into the clearest explanation you're likely to find anywhere. Like episode 2, where we cover the atmospheric effect and how that relates to light, scale, and distance of objects in reality, and how to render it. Or episode 3, where I hand over the ultimate key to controlling value in your paintings. Episodes 5 through 8 are all about rendering materials. Want to understand the logic behind rendering metal, leather, hair, transparency, damn near anything. I even cover the logic behind painting special effects like fire, neon, or lightsabers in later episodes. The lessons just get deeper and more detailed as I build on the foundations covered in preceding episodes. The 10th gives you the most important rule of composition you'll ever learn to keep your images interesting. The next few episodes cover important painting techniques like my edge control ninjutsu or simplification with the large to small system. We dip a toe in color theory, devote a few episodes to finishing full-blown illustrations utilizing the techniques we've learned so far. Some episodes, like the lighting game or Advanced Exercises 1, the shirt, present cheap, valuable, and practical exercises to give you explosive growth in your development. Episodes 22 through 25 cover painting and illustration, just like I do for Magic the Gathering, from assignment and inception to signing the painting at the end. Each one is full of tips, knowledge, everything to make working as an illustrator easier. Did you enjoy learning how to paint basic materials? Metal, wood, and such? I got 3 whole episodes devoted to the intricate logic behind painting different kinds of skin. After that, more lessons devoted to pumping life into your portraits and original methods for accurately drawing faces out of your head. From fundamentals to photo bashing, Gumroad and ArtStation have every lesson I create available for purchase a la carte. But here's an even better way to learn with me. Stay current with my latest lessons on Patreon for the lowest price available. Monthly support gets my student that month's lesson, a critique or paint over of their finished work, a discount code for 25% off the entire Gumroad archive, and access to the Logic of Light and Color Discord community, where we plan future lessons, share knowledge, and learn together as a team. The absolute best method is to join my Patreon classroom at the Student Plus tier, where you'll get everything I just mentioned and a free episode from the archive every month to accelerate your mastery at your own pace. You've decided to take control of your painting and master Izzy's Logic of Light and Color. Now it's up to you to choose the path that's best for you. I'll see you on the flip side. Paint smart, paint sexy.